Hello, and welcome back to Just Another Day, where we're starting a new video series starting today called Deck Breakdowns. The premise of it being breaking down our Magic the Gathering decks and talking about how we've built them, what inspired us to build them, and the idea behind them. So the thing about this series is it won't involve just decks from the JAD group, but also friends we've made along the way that wish to share their decks with you. The idea behind this is to hopefully inspire those to build possibly the same decks, variants of that deck, and if somebody who has already tried to build the deck, maybe they'll see something they like and, oh, I never thought about that, let's put that in mind and see if it helps me out. Today we're talking about one of my personal decks. As you can see on the screen here, I'm using Architect. Architect is a website that allows you to put your deck in there and save them, so that you can look through them and see if you have creatures, draw, evasion, protection, ramps, so on and so forth. I like Architect a lot. I'm not promoting it, but it helps me with my decks. And as some of you may know, I'm actually fairly new to the game, so this would actually be my first deck that I built from scratch, not something that was a pre-con and then I've modded. Some of my pre-cons that I have is my Merfolk deck, but we're not going to talk about today. We're going to talk about something that inspired me, dinosaurs. Dinosaurs seemed like a cool idea for me. After I saw someone else play one, I really liked the premise behind the dinosaurs. But I wanted to use different commanders. I didn't want to copy that guy's deck play by play. So when I actually got lucky, pulled Blue Loyal Raptor and Owen Grady, as you can see, those are my chosen commanders. I said, hey, why not? They're partners. Let's try and make this work. It was kind of frustrating at first because you're using two commanders to actually get it to start popping off. But I tell you, it's such a fun deck to play. I stuck with it and kept changing things after every play. Not play, but you get what I'm saying, after every match. And then, moved on and kept moving forward. So this is not going to be the most professional video that you've ever seen, but in editing, I'll see what I can do to make it something. So there's your intro. I hope you guys liked it. Feel free to go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe on my videos if you enjoyed the content and or maybe the video helped you. Also, not only does a subscribe and like help us, but allow us to help you by commenting with any questions so that we can actually give you a response and answer back. It might actually help you in the long run. Could win you a couple of games. Who knows? Could help you lose a couple of games. Who knows? That's the fun part about Magic the Gathering. You build this thing that you call perfect, and the next thing you know, you're getting wiped out. Once again, thank you for tuning in. That was the intro. So let's move right into the deck here. As you can see, my two commanders, I got Blue the Loyal Raptor. Blue the Loyal Raptor partners with Owen Grady. Blue the Loyal Raptor, you partner with Owen Grady, Raptor Trainer. When this creature enters the battlefield, target player may put Owen into the hand from their library, then shuffle. So one way that you can play this is you can play with both Owen and Blue inside of the command zone. From the way this reads, you could also put Owen in your library before you start. When you pull out Blue, go get Owen and have him ready. I don't see that as necessary, and the reason being is because if they're both in the command zone, you don't have to worry about the card being milled at some point in the game. And in general, it just helps you out just to have him right there in the command zone. If you've got things that will take him and put him back into the library from your graveyard, that might help you keep the commander cost down if he was to be sent back. But I just always put him back in the command zone and worry about the command cost as a play. The second part of his read is for each kind of counter on Blue, each other dinosaur you control enters the battlefield with a counter of that kind on it. So that includes anything from haste, menace, +1/+1 counters, vigilance, so on and so forth. If it's a counter, it gets moved over to another dinosaur. Well, that goes hand in hand with his partner, Owen Grady. Owen Grady is the partner from Blue the Loyal Raptor. You'll tap him. Once you've done so, you'll put your choice of menace, trample, reach, or haste on the target dinosaur. And you'll only activate it as a sorcery. So the way that works is during your turn and during your phase, you're going to tap as a sorcery to put a counter on Blue. Now, as you play dinosaurs, right, it'll come in with that counter. The premise behind the deck is to go ahead and get your dinos built up as fast as possible with counters. I start with haste, then I go menace, then trample, and then reach. But, you know, the decks that you play against, sometimes they have flyers. You might need reach before you need something else, and so on and so forth. If you're playing against a token deck, sometimes Menace does help, but Trample's better. Why? Because if they get a 1/1 and they can block with 2 1/1s, who cares? But if I have Trample, it works out a little bit better. So this deck runs 35 lands, 13 ramp, 4 artifacts, 4 counters, 18 creatures, 10 draw, 1 evasion, 1 protection, 4 removals, 1 sorcery, 2 tutors, 1 tokens, 1 finisher, and 2 enchantments. So the way this deck works is I'll start the way this video works is I'll start from the left and we'll go right. And I'll try to make it as smooth and less painful as possible. So our first card in the deck besides them is Shamil the Inner Sun. It's a legendary artifact. Spells you controls can't be countered. At the beginning of your end step, you discover 5. Okay, and the reason why I put this in the deck is because I wanted to be able to, once I get this out, make it so that somebody can't get rid of my dinosaurs as I play them. And number 2, I wanted to be able to get more dinos out faster without paying for them. And some of my dinosaurs are 5 cost and below, and some of my enchantments and stuff. So if I can't get a dino, at least I get something else to help me set up my board in the long run. Next, Dino DNA. Dino DNA is another artifact within Parent. You pay 1 mana, tap, exile target creature from the graveyard, activated only as a sorcery. The next one is you're going to pay 6 mana, no tap. You'll create a token that's a copy of the token creature card exiled with Dino DNA, except it's a 6/6 green dinosaur creature with trample, activate only as a sorcery. So why have I chosen to play this instead of some other ones, right? So let's say you get a really nice card out that you didn't want to get rid of, but someone, because we play Magic the Gathering, didn't want it out there and got rid of it for you. Put it in your graveyard. Well, this allows you to exile it, boom, put it back in play. Now, it might not be as strong, or it could be stronger, but the best part about it is it's a copy of that card, so you still get its effects, right? So with that being said, let's say you're playing Blue the Loyal Raptor, right? And for some reason, you've had him get sent back to your command zone twice already, right? Well, as you know, if it was sent back twice already and it gets sent back this 3rd time, that's an extra 6 on top of what he must be paid, right? So even if it was sent back twice, 6 plus the 2 more, right? You're going to be paying 8 for him. This, if you were to put him in your graveyard, would allow you to pull him back out that way. The only problem is once somebody gets rid of it, you can't play blue again because he's exiled for the rest of the game. It's like a latch ditch. I'm probably going to try and win with this thing. I usually don't do that with this deck. I try and just use it on the only other dinosaurs that I actually pull out. All right, Tyrian Soulcleaver. I like this card in blue because the creature gets vigilance, and because it's a vigilance counter on blue, all my other dinosaurs that come in after will have vigilance as well. And then when another artifact or creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature, right? So that means you're making blue larger. Not only is he giving them vigilance, but he's also going to give them at least 1 +1/+1 on the target dinosaur. So Skullspore Nexus, this is another great card. The spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Whenever 1 or more non-token creatures you control die, you create a green fungus dinosaur creature token that have power and toughness, each equal to the total power and toughness of the creature, right? So you can also pay 2 and tap to double the target's creature's power until the end of the turn. This combos really well with a bunch of other things, but I'll show you why I like this the most with just its base form is because people are going to be killing your dinosaurs and you're just creating more. You know, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep bringing out dinosaurs then. It keeps your playfield prepped and ready and able to block and attack when you want to. Next is the Velociraptor. Velociraptor is one of my ways of dealing with token decks. This is a variant print, by the way, of Rampaging Ferocidon. What it does is whenever another creature enters the battlefield, Velociraptor deals 1 damage to the target creature's controller. So anybody who likes to play those token decks where they're just bringing out mad tokens consistently, this kind of helps you make them think about not doing so. You bring out 13 tokens, that 13 life you just lost. So it's good early game against the token deck, and it does help you late game against the token deck when those kind of decks decide to start ramping up and getting a lot of tokens on the battlefield. So Metallic Mimic, we all know Metallic Mimic's a greret card. He's going to give +1/+1 counters to your dinosaurs coming in. It's also a dinosaur themselves. What's great about this card is the +1/+1 that he gives him actually will also work with if you have Vigilance and the +1/+1 on blue. So now they're getting +2/+2 whenever they're coming in. So that stacks pretty nice. We get Ozolith the Shadow Spire, only adding to the +1/+1 counters we're putting on that creature. So it's helping our dinosaurs come in fat, ready to eat, Also, you can pay 1 and a green to tap and then put a +1/+1 counter on a target artifact or creature. Okay, so what's cool about this is, let's say you don't have any of your other ones, this will allow you to put a +1/+1 on blue, and then once again, boom, ramping up the rest of your dinosaurs that come in later. Ozolith, right? Ozolith is great in this deck. This card is going to allow you to take any counters that were on blue, or any other creature, mind you, but in particular, this is kind of a focus for blue if they get rid of him. You're going to move the tokens, put it on the Ozolith, because the way that it reads is whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may, and that's the greatest part, move all counters from the Ozolith onto a creature. So let's say they get rid of blue and you're able to get him back next turn. You could do so, move all those counters back to blue. You don't have to spend turns and turns and turns trying to get Owen Grady to train him up again. So the idea is to make sure you keep your counters on blue with this card. Wingspan Mentor. Wingspan Mentor was put in the deck because it will also give you a +1/+1 counter on a target creature that has flying. But what this does is when Wingspan Mentor enters the battlefield, you put flying counter on a target non-human creature you control. This works beautifully in the deck, right? Because what it does is when it enters, I get to put flying on blue, which then gives all the rest of my dinosaurs flying. Pretty cool. Bedrock Tortoise. We're getting into the creatures of the deck here. Bedrock Tortoise, as long as it's your turn, creatures you control have hexproof. Beautiful as long as it's your turn. You don't want somebody trying to get rid of things as you're coming in for attacks. They have hexproof. Leave me alone. The dinos are coming. The fences are down. It's Jurassic Park. So each creature you control with a toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. That rarely happens in a dino deck, but there have been some scenarios where the toughness is stronger. Boom, now I'm dealing more damage with that creature. I added Belligerent Yearling. And we're not going to read all these cards, okay? We're only going to read some of them. If it's something I believe you understand, I'm just going to skip right over it. Belligerent Yearling, Bonehorde Dracosaur, Cresting Mosasaurus, Curious Altasaur, Earthshaker Dreadmaw, Galta Stampede Tyrant, Hulking Raptor, Hunting Velociraptor, Inksquith, the firstborn of Gishath, Polani's Hatcher, Pugnacious Hammerskull, Rampaging Ceratops, that was tough for me that time, Ravenous Tyrannosaurus, Roaming Throne. I'm going to stop here and talk about this card for a second. So Roaming Throne is an amazing card for whenever you want to double what a dinosaur does. So you could call dinosaur, you say dinosaur, and it's active. We'll read it out loud. As it enters the battlefield, you'll choose what it is. If the triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. Okay, so it works with a lot of different dinosaurs, of course, but one of the reasons why I also like it in this deck is because if I want to, I can choose human. So what that would do is make it so that, let's say somebody got rid of my my blue and I lost all my counters, and let's say it's turn 5 or 6, I don't want to spend another 4 turns getting everything back on him, right? So I want to get my important ones on quick, and if I'm able to play Roaming Throne, I can throw it down, choose humans, tap to trigger Owen Grady. It's going to trigger twice, so I get to choose 2 types of counters to put on blue. So it only takes 2 turns to get all 4 of the counters back on there, which is amazing. Okay. This also works really, really well if you're playing a 101. If you're playing 101 Commander, having Roman Throne choose Owen is amazing because it gets your counters on them fast and allows you to hopefully not get walked on one-on-one. Scytheclaw Raptor. Tenacious Tidebender. I like this card in the deck because it's a flash and it allows you to turn off one of the abilities of. I'll read it to you. When Tenacious Tidebender enters the battlefield, counter up to one target activated or triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, the permanent loses all the abilities as long as this card's on the battlefield. It's a good way to shut down someone's infinites. It's also a good way to shut down any really annoying thing happening to you. So Tashana's Tidebender is actually an amazing card in the deck. And then we've got Trumpeting Carnosaur as well. We're going to go into draw. We got Colossal Majesty. Okay, this is always triggered for you. This is an amazing card because dinos have a power of 4 greater usually. It allows you to get more draw, of course. Descendant's Fury. I'm running this in the deck because when one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice one of them. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library and to reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with the sacrifice creature. Put that card in the battlefield and the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. So I like running things like this because let's say you're using Skullsport Nexus, it's a dinosaur. So if you deal combat damage with that, then you're able to sacrifice that token that you got and then search for another dinosaur as well. Bonehorde Dracosaur works really well with that one because you're creating more dinosaurs. And then, of course, Polani's Hatcher. You know, these extra cards that you're creating that are dinosaurs they're just kind of there. If they were to do combat damage, you can actually sacrifice them and just go get something that you really want from your deck, okay? All right, so we're looking into more draw. Itali the Primal Conqueror. We all know that's a great card to have in the deck. Itali the Primal Storm, just as annoying and great to have in the deck. Garruk's Uprising, amazing card. Life's Legacy. I like Life's Legacies because as an additional cost to cast a spell, you could sacrifice a creature, or you do sacrifice a creature. You draw cards equal to the creature's power. Most of the cards that you do create that are tokens are going to be 3/3, okay? And if they come in because they're dinosaurs with more tokens on them, right? Because if you're putting tokens from blue onto them, like +1/+1 counters, it's now a 4/4. If it had another +1/+, you get the idea. So you can sacrifice a token between 3 and 6. It's going to be its power, and then you're drawing 3 to 6 cards. Amazing. For a 2 cost, you can't beat it. Mystic Remora. Mystic Remora is a great card, right? And a lot of people probably usually put these in their decks, right? The way that I play this card is I've played it so like it's turn 1 and I'm like, yay. And then nothing happens, or turn 4 and I pop off and get a bunch of cards, or turn 4 and nobody plays anything. It depends on you. I usually only keep it out for like 1 to 2 turns maximum. Everything's pretty expensive in a dino deck. So tapping that 1 mana, fine. Tapping that 2 mana, okay. Tapping 3 or more mana kind of, in my opinion, gets a little like doing that is going to actually cause you to not play some of the cards that you do want to play. So keep it out there 2 turns, then get rid of it. If it did its job, nice. If it didn't, oh well. You were just trying to get some free cards. Because who's going to pay 4? I've seen people do it. Nezahal the Primal Tide. This is a great card. A lot of people might know what this does, but I like it because you have no maximum hand size. And then the way that you can kind of keep him out of the zone so that you can keep bringing him back by doing his discard 3 cards thing. I typically don't use it that way. I have used it mainly to keep my hand size infinite, you know. And I like the way that when they cast a non-creature spell, you can draw a card. So it does actually, if you have this and can play Mystic Remora, you know what I mean? It does let you draw 2 every time they do that. But That's rare. I wouldn't depend on something like that. They're kind of opposites. This is just a really expensive Mystic Remora that's also a creature dinosaur and getting all the other tokens. So I like the card a lot. Ripjaw Raptor. So I like Ripjaw Raptors because you can actually, if they have tokens, right, you can send them out a token. He took some damage. He didn't die. Draw a card, you know. Or if you got something in your deck that's going to deal damage to him, draw a card, you know. Just don't kill him, but he allows you to keep drawing cards. The Great Hinge. This is a beautifully amazing card. As you can see, the spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. You can tap to add 2 mana of green and gain 2 life. What I love about this is that tap to add 2 mana because things are expensive in this deck, right? And then you also put a +1/+1 counter onto the non-token creatures and you draw a card. So more card draw, +1/+1 counters. Hopefully you got all the rest of it popping off. You're making things huge. You know, in the perfect scenario, you're just adding too many +1/+1 counters to your dinos when they come in, but that's a perfect scenario. In a non-perfect scenario, it gives you at least 1 more card to be able to play, you know, to allow you to draw cards and get counters, right? Well, what's great about the Great Hinge is because it costs X less to cast, blue is a 5 power, so you've already reduced it by 5. Can't beat that. Now this is a 2 and 2 cost, you know? That's amazing. To get the Great Hinge out with your commander being a 5/4, cheap in this deck, cheap. Poetic Ingenuity. This card is amazing because once again, it's going to allow you to either make treasure tokens, but the once again part being create 3/1 red dinosaur creature tokens, right? Things you can sacrifice from some of the things we've talked about before, or just cannon fodder, you know? Also, the treasure tokens, when you're attacking with your dinosaurs, helps you pay for the really expensive stuff later. So Poetic Ingenuity is really amazing. And as you can see, we have a lot of different artifacts in the deck here. You know, Swiftfoot Boots, so on and so forth. So we're trying to always get the 3/1 dinos out there and see if we can get some damage in so that we can get treasures in play. I mean, yeah, you get the idea. Welcome to. I've had a lot of people say they're not sure about this. I personally like it because, you know, you can turn certain things that are kind of annoying you into a wall, and then by the end of it, you're going to be able to destroy those walls to get rid of those artifacts. It's really nice. Also, you do get a 3/3 dinosaur token out of it, but then on the other side, right, each dinosaur card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard, right? This allows you to cast dinosaurs from your graveyard. Okay, boom. Then at the other part of it is you can add 1 force for each dinosaur you control. You have to admit, being able to do something like that, you can get your mana pool up pretty high. Carnage Tyrant, I like this one just because, you know, he comes in, he's huge, you know, comes in with trample already and has hexproof. Aggravated Assault. So this gives you a second turn. Just to explain it for those that don't know, it's a 2 red, 3 common, or 3 colorless. Untap all creatures you control. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. Okay? So activate only as a sorcery. This really does allow you to attack back to back. Boom, boom. Try and finish the game. That's why it's in the finishers portion of everything. But it can be expensive to play, which is where things like Welcome to Jurassic Park and things of that nature come in handy because it's going to allow you to build that mana up to pay for something like this. Okay. Lands. We're not going to go over lands except for Cavern of Souls. Must have. You can name dinos. Helps out a lot. If you can get your hands on the Jurassic Park Command Tower. In my deck, I'm running a Tropical Island and a Volcanic Island. However, I will mention that these are very hard to get a hold of nowadays. So if your group's okay with letting you proxy them, do so. They're amazing to have. If they're not cool with proxies, there's other cards in the deck, in the game that will give you mana. They just usually come in tapped and so forth. Swiftfoot Boots. I like this card. Put it on blue. Put it on blue. Put it on blue. Put it on blue. A lot of people might think, well, you can put it on blue. It keeps him from getting removed and allowing you to keep bringing in dinosaurs with tokens attached to them. They have to get rid of this before they can get rid of blue. helps out a ton. Now we're going to move down into my ramp. We have Arcane Signet. We have Chrome Mox, once again, the proxy thing, and or replace it with something that you think will help you out. We got Mono Ramp. I love this one because it allows you to play an additional land and draw a card. So Explorer is a great card. Farseek. Growing Rights of Itlamok. I don't know. Y'all already know from the last video that I was trying to do. I can't read. Anyways, when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in any order. This does help you get certain cards out and into your hand. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 more creatures, you transform this. And it does tap for 1, or you can tap and add 1 force for each creature you control. So imagine having the Cradle of the Sun out and Welcome to Jurassic Park out. You've got a ton of mana suddenly, you know? So there's that. Jeweled Lotus, back to the proxies, back to the find something to replace it with if you're not allowed to play it, okay? These are expensive. Jeweled Lotus is a little bit more affordable, but if you can't afford it, we go back to the proxy era. Okay, I like this. So Jeweled Lotus is a great card, and a lot of people might think, well, you're not running a mono, so how do you use it? Well, both Owen and Blue rock green. So I'll say I'm going to pop it for 3 green. I can now pay 1 of Blue, 1 of Owen, okay? Or all 3 of Blue, 1 green, and use the other greens for colorless and use 1 island. You see how I'm getting at, right? So it does help you out. Kodama's Reach. And then we're getting into more Mana Crypt, Mana Vault. These are all in Mox Diamond. These can be, hopefully, your friend group is cool and allow you to proxy. So that'd be cool. If not, find something to replace them. There are things to replace them. These are amazing cards, but they're not the all-end-all of the series. Rampant Growth, Soul Ring, and Wayward Swordtooth. Wayward Swordtooth is cool. It's the Triceratops version of it. It allows you to play 2 lands per turn. And then once you have 10 permanents, you can now use it to attack and block, okay? And by the way, he's only a 3 cost. 1 forced and 2 colorless. Very nice to get out early game if you can. This will allow you to ramp up and get your lands out. Dinos are expensive, so doing that is key. So we're getting the removal, Chaos Warp. I like Silverclad Ferocidons. They're cool because when it's dealt damage, each opponent sacrifices a permanent. What's cool about this is if you can deal damage to it, you can actually deal damage to it yourself. You can actually help clear the board that way. Thrashing Brontodon. Warstorm Surge. This is an amazing card in Dinos. Since they are so powerful, you can actually burn people down. And sometimes I've had people target this, not knowing what else I was going to play. And because they did something to this, they could not do something to another card that I wanted to actually use. Because they see this and get scared of it. They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, no, no. And then, cool, I'm able to now do X, Y, Z, and there's nothing you can do about it, hopefully, you know. Savage Order. Savage Order is an amazing card. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you sacrifice a creature with a power of 4 or greater. So we were talking about tokens before, right? Savage Order is going to allow you to, if you have +1/+1 counters that you're putting on things, mind you, you can actually sacrifice those tokens instead of the actual creatures you care about. And that's what I do. You search your library for a dinosaur creature card, put it into the battlefield, then shuffle. It gains indestructible until your next turn. So there's multiple ways to do this. I've searched for both Ravenous Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I'll blow up tokens. Because if you'll look at Ravenous Tyrannosaurus Rex, Devour 3, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. So if you've got tokens created, he's coming in and you're not destroying things you want, right? Now he's going to sacrifice 3 of those, giving yourself, so you can search for him, right? Then he comes in as a 12/12. Boom, ready to go. And if he in blue actually have all the counters on him, now he's even nastier, right? And let's say for some reason you also have Warstorm Surge out. Doom, take 12. Now I'm going to attack with it. That's gonna, yeah, you see how I can get nasty, nasty. But another one I've searched for, right? So let's see, what was one of the, of course, I've went and gotten Polyraptor, which we'll go over that in a minute. I've went and purposely got Hunting Velociraptor because I needed to make my dinosaurs cheaper, and you know, the prowl cost is amazing. Or because you get to just put it in play as a free cast, go get Galta and then play everything from your hand. That's a dinosaur, okay? So you can really set yourself up here. Polyraptor. Everybody knows it works with an infinite. I do have the infinite in this deck, and I'll explain it as we go. So whenever Polyraptor is dealt damage, create a token that's a copy of Polyraptor. I have Forerunner of the Empire in the deck. So the way this creature reads is when Forerunner of the Empire enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a dinosaur card, reveal it, then shuffle your library and put a card on top of it, of your library. So you can go search for Polyraptor and put him on top. Okay, and as you can tell with some of the card draw that we have in here, we can try and go ahead and guarantee to get him into our hand. Or if you're playing a nicer game and you're playing let's all hug and have a good time, you can go get something fun out of the deck and not try and pull out an infinite. It's really up to you. But whenever a dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Forerunner of the Empire deal 1 damage to each creature. Okay, may. What's nice about this is you play Polyraptor, you're going to hit the May, and you're going to go 1, boom, 1, and it's going to create Polyraptor's copy. When that comes in, it'll deal 1 damage. You'll create another copy, you'll create a copy, you'll create a copy. You get it? So it ends up creating a large amount of Polyraptors. Now, this also does work really well with Silverclad Ferocidons, right? So if you had Silverclad Ferocidons in play at the same time, you're now destroying permanents. Boom, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, okay? It's very nice, works really well with each other. If you have Warstorm Surge, every time Polyraptor is played, you're doing 5 damage to a target. Nice. Can't beat that, right? You drop 6 of them, right? That's 30 damage off top, easy. And usually by the time you get this combo off, people have got around 30 life left. Well, if that didn't kill him, you also are dropping the dinosaur with Blue's counters on him. So if you've got the counters like haste, they're coming in ready to go. Natural Order, sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a green creature. Search your library for a green creature card, put it in the battlefield, then shuffle. I use this to go ahead and get Ravenous Tyrannosaurus, he's out, or I go and get Galta, you know, things like that. And if you're trying to sacrifice something, Owen's a good thing to sacrifice if you've already gotten your counters on to your Blue the Loryraptor. What that's going to do for you is you'll be able to sacrifice him because technically at this point he doesn't really do much else than just be a card that can block and attack. And so using him as a sacrifice for green to go get Galta or go get Bedrock Tortoise or go get... you get the point, you know, Ravenous Tyrannosaurus. It's all there. It all kind of works together, and you see how the deck kind of works. So this is the way that I've built this deck. The theory and the idea behind this deck was called the fences are down, you know, just like in Jurassic Park. You didn't say the magic word. This deck is kind of, it's trying to do that. It's trying to set itself up, and by the time it starts rolling, hopefully... you're able to just kind of destroy the board, you know, using Menace, using Haste. There is one infinite in the deck that you can use. You can set yourself up to do UC, and UC, you know. So hopefully that was very fun for you guys, and that was very informative of how I built the deck, why I built the deck the way that it did. The deck is very fun to play. It's probably my most fun deck that I have. I have to admit, my Morpho deck is really fun to play, but I think because I built this one myself, this is my baby. You know what I mean? This is it. This is the one that I love. I like to play. So there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys tune in to our next Magic the Gathering deck breakdown, and we'll go from there next time. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Have a good one.